We're just going to give folks. You heard the news. We're recording the meeting, but we'll give everyone just another minute or so just to make sure that everyone has a chance to jump on here. Thank you for your patience. Righty. Thank you, Tuan. I'm going to try to speak up just a little bit louder. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Happy New Year. We are back at it. It's January 9th, 2024. And we welcome you to the first Workforce Development Advisory Committee meeting for the eTruck project. We are so thrilled to be continuing this effort. And so just want to remind everyone that the meeting is being recorded, that we will share the recording and the meeting notes with you. Let's go to review the agenda right now, just so we have a sense of what we're going to be looking at today. So obviously, welcome and overview. We're going to provide you with the project and WDAC overview. Also, an overall project update. We have a guest presentation from BTC Power. We'll have a little bit of time for discussion and feedback, and then next steps. Okay, so let's go to team introductions. Excuse me. So as I mentioned, my name is Stella Ursua. I work at the Greater LA office of Grid Alternatives, and I am going to ask Shamika to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Shamika Dixon, and I am the Director of Workforce Development here at Grid Alternatives. And I'll pass it to Giovanni.
Thank you so much, Shamika. My name is Giovanni Hernandez. Good morning, everyone. I'm the Clean Mobility Program Manager at Grid Alternatives of Greater Los Angeles. Pleasure to be here with you all on this first WDAC meeting of the year. I'll kick it over to Anthony. Should we have Anthony introduce himself?
Yes, please.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Anthony Scott, and I am Workforce Development Program Manager here at Grid Alternatives, Greater Los Angeles.
Thank you, Anthony. How about the CalSTART team, please?
Morning, everyone. Thank you for being here with us today. My name is Tuan Chi. I'm a project manager here at CalSTART. I'll pass it to Gia.
Hi, I'm Giovanna Escamilla. I'm an associate project manager at CalSTART, and thanks for joining us. And I'll pass it to Lisa.
Everybody, good morning. I'm facilitating project outreach here at CalSTART. Thank you for joining us. And I will pass it to Epri.
Not free here today. If not, we will move on. Thank you, everyone, for your introductions. And I'd like to hand it off to Tuan, who is going to give us a little project overview next.
Great. Thank you, Stella. So as you know, the eTrucks project purpose is to create a California research hub to facilitate and accelerate the electrification of heavy-duty drayage vehicle market in key areas. And with this, we have a couple of goals and objectives. The first is to advance research, development, and demonstration activities that extend the delivery range of large weight class battery electric trucks, beginning with drayage operations. We also engage broad stakeholders like you with a community-first approach and use all of these input to promote equity and workforce development opportunities in priority communities, particularly pollution burden and impacted communities, but also truck fleets, charging equipment and service providers, electric utilities, and planning agencies. Lastly, we plan, design, and deploy innovative, scalable public corridor charging strategies for heavy-duty electric trucks, again, beginning with drayage trucks. I'll pass it back to Stella. You're on mute, Stella.
Darn it. All right. Thank you, Tuan. And so let's just revisit our goals, objectives, and function of the WDAC committee. And so the goal is to ensure that pollution impacted, underserved, and tribal communities are involved in creating and guiding the initiative, and that these priority communities are involved and benefit from the larger clean energy transition, HD electrification, the jobs that are created, and other resultant economic opportunities. Our objectives are to inform the project on workforce development needs and the desired impacts from priority communities. We want to communicate project activities to relevant key partners and stakeholders, promote equity and workforce development opportunities in these same communities, and foster workforce development partnerships in the targeted priority communities for zero emission freight corridor technology and the development planning and job creation pieces as well. And finally, the functions for the advisory committee: provide input on the workforce development plan, support equity and workforce development goals, inform workforce development plan, and the accompanying activities. So we have a lot in store for 2024. And so just wanted to review that just in case we have anyone new out in the audience there. Those of you that have been attending, this sounds probably fairly familiar. Let's go to the 2023 takeaways. And so thank you for this slide, Tuan. We from 2023, we found employment projections that job growth is expected in manufacturing industries as the need for batteries and charging stations increases. Informing communities as the public gains a better understanding of the EV industry, they'll be able to make more informed decisions for their communities. The training pipelines that are being created, the EV industry should create pipelines connecting training and employment opportunities to ensure that workers are guaranteed jobs in their field. The interconnection, facilitating connection between all aspects of the EV industry, so manufacturing, maintenance, education, will lead to fulfillment of employers' needs as workers gain necessary skills. With the input of all stakeholders. And finally, we're talking about stacking certifications. So training certifications that lead to opportunities for growth in the EV industry as the just transition progresses. So we wanted just to share some of the takeaways there. We're working in different areas here to continue with this work, not just on the e-truck side, but just in general, workforce development around clean mobility, electric vehicles, medium duty, heavy duty vehicles, et cetera. And so that's why these meetings and these panels are so important, so that we continue to update ourselves on the activities that are taking place out there, and all the new technology, including new trucks, new charging equipment and infrastructure. So it's going to be an exciting year. Go to the overall project updates, and that is Tuan once again.
Great. Thank you, Stella. So in terms of overall project updates, there are different aspects of the projects that I'll be providing more details on today. So as you know, as part of the committees, we have this series called the Industry Partner Presentation Series, where we provide our committee members with just basic information on the industry so that you can be better informed and provide feedback to us. So in 2024, we'll have 2 of these webinar. The first will be on May 1st, 2024, and that will be on Drayage 101. The second one will be on November 6th, and that will be on EV site planning. So invitations for these should be going out soon, and we look forward to seeing you all there. In terms of published reports, we have published 2 reports that you can find on our website. The first is the Tier 1 Supplier and Original Equipment Manufacturers Company Perspective on High Power Charging. And the second is the Industry Perspective on High Power Charging from the EVSC side. So both of these reports are ready to view on our website. Next, when it comes to our Advanced Transportation Research Center, our high power charging lab is in progress in Pomona, California, and we have an estimated completion of mid-2024. Next, we have 2 pilot sites that we will be deploying. The first is with MHX, and we finally have a signed site host agreement with them. And lastly, when it comes to technology transfer activities, many of you might have seen our end of year video, but if not, we created a video wrapping up everything that we did this year, and I'll drop that in the chat. Updates, please follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you scan the QR code, you can get access to all of those social media. That's about it. I'll pass it back to you, Stella.
Thank you, Tuan. Really appreciate that. Very excited about what's coming up. And so I'm going to hand this off to Shamika, who will introduce our panelists. Thank you, Shamika.
Thank you, Stella. Good morning again to everyone, and I hope you're enjoying your second week of the new year. But today I have the pleasure of introducing Stephen Israel of BTC Power. He is the Senior Director of Product Management. Stephen is a 14-year electric vehicle charging veteran with experience ranging from system architecture design, asset operations, and turnkey station design build. Stephen started his career working for leading-edge technologies such as battery storage with Green Charge Network. He then moved network of its time. Stephen is a strategic member in the architecture, implementation, and commercialization of all products and is a major driver of why BTC Power is successful today. Today, he's going to give us a presentation that we are elated that he has agreed to do. So without further ado, I want to introduce Stephen.
Thank you very much. First off, I want to thank EPRI, CalSTART, and Grid Alternates for our alternatives for giving me the opportunity to speak to you. Today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the company background, a little bit about kind of what's driving the industry right now in terms of uptime, and then how we get there with some of the key trainings and certifications that we're working on, both at BTC and as an industry as a whole. So to start off, thank you. A little bit about BTC's background as a whole. The next slide, please. So BTC started back in 2001. Actually, the core emphasis of this organization was one, on point of sale for large oil and gas, British Petroleum, or ARCO, as you may know it, in the West. Additionally, in a side business, they also had off-road charging for forklifts and support equipment. What they did was those 2 businesses continued to flourish and grow. But in 2012, we took both of those technologies and combined them together to what we know today as EV charging, both for AC and DC. Back in 2018, we introduced high power charging, which we see today throughout the marketplace, which includes liquid cooling up to and in excess of 500 amps. Then in 2020, those markets expanded kind of to outside of just what we call CPOs or charge point operators that you're familiar with, the Electrify Americas, the EVgoes, to really some of the more mainstream oil and gas and even fleet operators as the market continued to grow and flourish. Today, we are the largest high power market player in North America. We have about 25% market share of 120 kilowatts or greater. We operate and have operated in North America, which will go into a little bit of our footprint. And last year, we're proud to introduce that we have a Buy America product offering as well for what's coming with NEVI and those other grant opportunities. So next slide, please. So a little bit more about our background. So as I said, BTC has about 25% market share. We continue to grow heavily in terms of both the sessions that we're delivering for our customers and their deliver. BTC is a little bit different in terms of what we have out there with competition, in that we have not just an AC charging portfolio, but DC as well. We really heavily are on the DC side, but also have a real commercial application for AC charging with point of sale that's really robust, including credit card reader. We operate around 450 employees globally. And next slide, please. Our footprint globally looks at headquarters is North America. This is where BTC has been operating since 2001. We're actually in Santa Ana with a new building in Irvine as well for our Buy America and North America production facility. And then additionally, we have offices throughout the United States and Canada for supporting our North America domestic customers. In addition, we have resources globally, Philippines being our main high volume production facility. Really is a great opportunity for us, and we've grown and actually executed out in the Philippines with our core team since 2008. Additionally, we have our Bangalore facilities, Mumbai, where we have 24/7 call center and support, as well as training in both those offshore facilities as well. Next slide, please. So one thing that's a little different as well for BTC is that we don't just manufacture hardware. We also help to maintain and operate that hardware for our partners. We are not a CPO, so we do not have direct B2C kind of interaction, but more B2B. So what you see out in the marketplace is a lot of BTC chargers. You see that actually those chargers are white labeled with a given partner branding and back-end operations, as well as applications. But BTC is behind a lot of them doing operations. Everything from 24/7 call center for the technicians. We do triage. We do go out and do corrective action, preventative maintenance, part supply, so on and so forth. So what you don't see is BTC, but what we are is we're in the background actually supporting those partners and operators in the execution of their equipment throughout North America. So go on to the next, skip 2 slides, and we'll go into our product offering quickly. So as described, BTC operates both or sells and maintains both AC and DC charging. We look at them in 3 different categories. One, we have level 2 or AC charging, which goes everything from a wall box to a more industrial size pedestal for public space, and even carb requirements. Then we go to what we call all-in-one products. These are products that take in the AC power directly into the charger application, and then that charger has the connectors and the distribution, as well as the point of sale, all in that one application. Our current product offering in Gen 4 includes this, and that's the 180 kilowatt that we have in the marketplace today, which includes liquid cooling as well. And then additionally, we have distributed systems, which you can see throughout the marketplace. Some of these look familiar as they're white labeled for other customers, and you've seen them today. But we have distributed systems that range from not just CPOs, but also to fleets and fueling partners as well. As you can see, our customer portfolio is very wide ranging, everything from municipalities, electric or EV OEMs, CPOs, so on, large oil and gas as well. So we look at, we target about 5 different portfolios and customer bases, and we kind of group these products together for matching to those different use cases that exist. Okay, next slide. So one of the key things that has come up, especially in the last couple of years, as the markets continue to mature, is really uptime, availability, reliability. What we're seeing kind of in the NEVI grants and applications and the minimum requirements by FHWA is 97% or greater. So this was really a strived target for many of the legacy organizations, and something that we encouraged in the marketplace as well. We've been living up to this, not just actually in theory, but actually in practice. Last year, you can see here, this is just a small footprint of a couple months of what we've been able to produce and what we've been able to see. But uptime is not just something that's charger related. It's something that the whole ecosystem of the quality of the product and the services and the training and the manufacturing have to do with that. So go to the next slide real quick. So to achieve these targets, as I described, you need to look at these as a holistic kind of quality plan. Everything from the design of the product, having a full testing plan and looking for reliability and testing protocols, having a really thorough development cycle that includes stage gate processes, third-party testing, and really doing a comprehensive design validation testing plan for each product is critical to make sure that these products are designed and developed. You have to get to a real quality of manufacturing process. Things like ISO certification are a good head start, but they're not everything. Having a thorough QA/QC process, end-of-line testing, and quality is necessary. Now, the thing we're here today to talk about is really the aftermarket quality. But it's a cycle that continues to flow. For aftermarket quality, having comprehensive work instructions, having a multi-level technician certification program, and make sure you have quality technicians. And then detailed reports and proactive monitoring of those assets is critical to this uptime. So without one of these, you cannot achieve those targets that the market needs. You need every single one of them to be able to achieve those targets, and they need to be continuously adapted and maintained given new experience in the field and new market trends, new technologies, and as to higher outputs and higher consistency and quality in the marketplace. So the thing I'm here to talk to the group about is, next slide, thank you, is the labor force skills and challenges. So first, I would like to talk about, next slide, please. The challenges and gaps for the skilled technicians that we're seeing. So what we're going to target is really looking at the technicians that exist in the field and how do we get those skill sets to them. So some of the challenges we're having today is that EVSEs are very complicated applications with a wide variety of technologies and skill sets that are really needed. The way we look at it today is that EVSEs are really 4 different applications. One, it's a point of sale, Internet of Things, smart devices, Windows-based, Linux-based, even Google and Android kind of based applications that are operating on these with telecoms. Then we're getting into power electronics. You know, historically, the space is kind of developed through kind of solar and some of these green initiatives and technologies, but they're very different from the first 2. Then lastly, we're getting into vehicle protocols. So as we get into the newer spaces, we're really getting into even more technically sound kind of protocols like ISO 15118, plug and charge. And as the space continues to grow and mature, we have many different vehicle OEMs that are entering this space. What was, 7 years ago about 4 or 5 different vehicle architectures is now grown to 20 different OEMs and hundreds of different vehicle architectures throughout. And that continues to grow not just in the light duty, but even in the medium and heavy duty that this group is really working on as well today. So the other challenges we're seeing in the marketplace, and from some of the technicians that we're interacting with, are knowledge of safety procedures. As you all may be aware, these devices are high powered. They are low voltage, but they do have a lot of danger associated with them. So technicians having a real understanding and respect for the danger that is present, and then really understanding what the procedures to follow for safely handling, operating these pieces of equipment is really necessary to make sure that everybody goes home, because that's the most important thing for all these skills, is that everybody goes home at the end of the day. And that's really, really important, something we emphasize when we bring in these new trainees. Additionally, one of the other challenges we're having in terms of hiring and supporting these technicians is really getting a self-starter and an ability to work independently. A lot of these technicians are rolling in their offices, right? So they're issued a vehicle, they're issued tools, they're issued parts, and they have to go out there and interact with the equipment, customer bases even sometimes, to really go through their day-to-day. So having a real motivated self-starter attitude is really critical for this. And a lot of times, we don't see that, and that's not something that that is off the shelf, just available with the candidates that are coming in. Another thing, and something that I know this group is working heavily on, is certification programs. So there is a lack of certification that exists in this space today. We anticipate that this is going to change over the next couple of years as we continue to mature. What we and a lot of the OEMs in the space are looking at is certifying for the equipment itself. But really what doesn't exist today is really a certification for the technicians that is a prerequisite for them even coming in and learning about the specific equipment. And then lastly is proficient technician communication. So this goes for both verbal and written. A lot of these technicians, they're going out to the field, they're independent, they're by themselves. They're calling into a third-party call center to get technical support. So having those verbal skills to be able to communicate really effectively on what they have done, what they are doing, and what they are seeing is really critical to make sure you have a timely corrective action and good instruction given back to the technician. And then lastly, written skills. This is really critical to make sure you have effective closeout notes of the operations that were completed on site. This goes back to that full ecosystem of quality. So whatever is happening in the field, if that can be reported on, and then as Paretos, as corrective actions can be identified, as trends can be gathered, then you can look at kind of how you can improve that product, the quality on future products, or even on existing products moving forward. So the communication skills are really critical here to make sure that that technician can be given good instruction and can give good details back. Next slide, please, and we'll get into a little bit of what the technician requirements are. So the way we look at this is we have kind of requirements and then ideal skill sets for technicians that are entering the space to service EVSE or electric vehicle charging equipment today. We have pre-requirements. We have our own technicians. We employ third-party companies and contract third-party companies as well to do some of this service nationally. But additionally, we train a lot of other technicians as well from third parties, other organizations, customers directly as well to do this. Now, for us, having OSHA 10, basic hand tools that include torque wrench. I knew I had to add includes torque wrench training because it's not a skill set that is very prevalent and known by a lot of these technicians, especially from the low voltage space. Multimeter training. So again, kind of as we bridge between electrical experience and low voltage experience, a lot of these technicians that may be very familiar with points of sale, Internet of Things, maybe don't have a lot of multimeter experience. So understanding multimeter, AC, DC, continuity, resistance training, these are all important skills to know before they even come in to get product certification. And then lastly, as part of safety training, and not just in addition to OSHA 10 and other trainings for even NFPA, would be a lockout tagout training. So really understanding how to do this correctly and appropriately to safely operate on these high power devices. In addition to those requirements, there are other requirements that exist in the space. There's EVITP, which I assume a lot of these different departments are aware of, which is really necessary for installation certification for a lot of grants and NEVI funds that exist in the space. And this is becoming more prevalent. Really, one of the precursors to this is being a certified electrician or a journeyman. So kind of a little bit different than what we have for technicians for and then lastly, something we're going to talk to next in the next couple slides is really OEM certification programs. We'll talk about kind of what BTC does a little bit differently from most as well, and what's common. But really, these are multi-tier across many of the different EVSE OEM certification programs, very similarly to automotive spaces. So you have masters, and then you have also just the entry levels and to do the majority of the work. In addition to that, BTC also has ideal skill sets that we're looking at. So soft skills as well. So having Windows and Linux-based OS experience is really valuable here, as a lot of the troubleshooting and triage skills have to do with pulling logs, trace files, going to OS operating systems and configurations on the devices. So having those soft skills is really important to take that next level and to get to that higher level of technician. Additionally, we're separated this intentionally, but having DC low voltage experience is really critical. So looking at things like 24 volts, 48 volts, signals, low voltage supplies, these are all having a really good understanding of these low voltage supplies is really a good ideal skill set as you're trying to troubleshoot these very complicated devices, right? And then additionally would be AC low voltage. So we call it low voltage. Medium voltage is anything 1200 volts or greater, but really low voltage from almost 600 volts to 1000 volts and down. So these are the very common operating voltages from about 150 volts up to 1000 volts, AC voltage is 600 volts and lower. This is really very, I said, for the low voltage space. And then cellular IoT connectivity experience. So understanding connectivity, understanding connectivity and cellular protocols, LAN communication setup, firewalls, those kind of things are really important as we get into these more complicated IoT kind of applications. Okay. So BTC and the space in general has OEM certification programs, and these vary really heavily amongst them. There are a couple overlaps, but one of the things that exists is that they vary by OEM. So each OEM has its own way of doing it. They have very proprietary informations and tools that are being communicated. So it's not something that if you know one vehicle OEM's product, you know all of them. You kind of, amongst the space, have to go product by product or OEM by OEM to get certified on their equipment, because the architectures are different, the technologies, the tools, and some of them have varying training programs as well, as BTC does. And then training is conducted directly by the OEM. This is something that's very common in the space. We get asked very regularly, can we put together a train the trainer program? And this is not something that exists throughout the space today. As we continue to mature, this is something that different even competitors are looking at as well as ourselves. But right now, it's really going directly to the OEMs in which you're getting the trainings and the certifications. One trend that we're starting to see in BTC, as well as doing the medium or utilizing an LMS. So we understand that this is not something that allows for the best technicians or best learning of the equipment, as learning with hands-on is extremely valuable. But as we continue to scale, getting a baseline of the equipment via a at your own pace or a learning management is something that BTC is going to be introducing in the second quarter of this year. And a couple others are starting to introduce as well in the space. And it's becoming kind of more of the norm as we move forward. Okay. Lastly, I wanted to kind of go over how BTC looks at kind of training and certification. So we've got 3 different certification programs and that we conduct. We have a team of 3 trainers here, as well as multiple documentation individuals in our organization that maintain and conduct and develop this curriculum skills itself. The first one is that we have installation training. So we understand that a lot of times the installers are very different than the ones that are doing the operations and maintenance of the equipment. So we conduct an installation certification for this. The real skills are the pre-energization. So where do you terminate? What torquing do you terminate to? And it's really an overview of the installation manual and those procedures for those technicians. So we do this generally virtually or distance learning and webinars for this. This allows us to really scale to those different customers and those different individuals really quickly and broadly across the United States. The second one, which I said we're going to be introducing in Q2 of this year, is the Tier 1 Technician Certification. This one, the medium is through LMS on this. As described, we have prerequisites, multimeter, OSHA 10 requirements, as well as simple tools. And then the intent here is to really enable for a safe operations and a minimum quality of technician and knowledge before going into the equipment itself. So we want to make sure they know where the different parts of the devices are and where the danger locations are and what to do to make sure that they're safely operating that equipment. To build on Tier 1 technician training, we have Tier 2 technician training, this is conducted in class. We do classes of 6 to 8. BTC emphasizes on that smaller class size because that allows us to do the I show, I do, and then you do kind of principles in which we get really hands-on on these with those technicians to really make them more knowledgeable about the equipment itself. To get to Tier 2, you have to have Tier 1 certification. And really, this allows you to do almost 100% of the activities, even the more complicated ones that exist in the field. So, yeah, BTC has been very successful with this. We have been introducing this for about 1.5 years, specifically on the Tier 2 technician training, and have over 200 certified technicians today in the field. One of the things we're going to be doing moving forward is actually requiring this certification, as you're going to need the certification to actually call into our call center to get support. That's one of the ways we're going to be doing quality management of this in the future. Not sure how others are, but that's one of the ways we want to ensure that we're going to be emphasizing the understanding of the equipment. So, Shamika, I think that's the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for allowing me to talk to the team.
Well, thank you very much. I am impressed by your presentation. And as you know, we have an abundance of questions for you. But I just want to start by thanking you first. As we jump directly into the questions, the first question that I have for you, As a leading manufacturer in the EVS space, what edge does BT Power Workforce have over other manufacturing companies in the space?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. A good question. Obviously BTC Power has been around since 2001 and really in the space since 2012. So being in North America, not just having a global presence, but really a North America and even California-centric presence has been really critical for us. That allows us to really understand and know the use case. I mean, if you come to our office, you'll see that it's probably about 70 or 80% electric vehicles today, and charging on our equipment on a daily basis. Additionally, with that comes really having sessions with our customers, knowing our customers, not just being a customer at the user perspective, but also knowing what our B2B customers are and what their needs are. We do very regular, almost quarterly kind of roadmap sessions. We do voice of customer. My team is responsible for product management, so we really are integrated and integral in a lot of our key customers' kind of developments and plans over the next 3, 5, 10 years to ensure that our product, our architecture, or technology is aligned with where they want to go in the future.
Wow, that's impressive. It's really refreshing to see how much work you guys are putting into making sure that the workforce that's needed has the tools to be successful. One of the slides that you presented that I really want to highlight was the skills gaps and the challenges of the technicians that you guys have experienced. I think that collectively we work together to try to figure out what are those gaps and how can we fill them. But in addressing the lack of certifications for technicians, has distance learning proved to be a viable solution to this challenge? And how do you see this playing out in the future for BTC Power?
Yeah. So as discussed, Shamika, we're initially launching this right now. We're actually doing soft launch internally and with some key customers, and then we're going to be launching it to the wider audience starting in Q2. We don't have a lot of data behind the quality of the skills and the quality of the technicians that are coming out of there. One of the things that we're looking at on a regular basis is first-time visit success. So as we send a technician out there, how often do they correct the issue on the first visit? That is one of the key criteria that we're looking at in KPIs moving forward. And we're going to be looking at the quality and the skill set and the certification for the technicians to try to quantify that moving forward. Moving forward, we do believe that this is the distance learning is going to be critical. But we think as you kind of described as kind of some of your key charters, it's building on the certifications. It's not one certification by itself, though, right? So we do believe that the industry as a whole will have some baseline certifications for skills for technicians that are needed, and then having that OEM. That EVSE OEM specific certification built on top of that is going to be critical to make sure that they know not just the general skills, but the equipment that is needed to be worked on regularly. So the distance learning, we believe, is going to be really critical in terms of scaling this, because as in-person is very important, and you can learn more with working on the equipment more than you can ever learn over distance learning, quizzes, videos, and those kind of medium. It's really the only way to really scale this to the wider masses that are needed in the e-mobility space.
Definitely. And the next question is more of an extension and a build on to the question that you just answered. How do you feel your required certifications compared to other EVS manufacturers?
That's a great question. We've been told that some of our training and some of our documentation is the best in the industry. Obviously, we don't have the ability to kind of, baseline against others, so we have to take them at that word. But one of the things we really emphasize on is quality over quantity. So in a lot of RFPs and a lot of grants and a lot of these other things, certified technicians from the OEMs is really something that's required. So some other EVSE OEMs or even partners and stakeholders will kind of do wide audiences that are 20 to 30 for their in-person training. We don't think that that is effective when we do in person, because as I described before, we really want to do the I show, I do, you do kind of methodology. So where everybody gets hands on. So one of the things that we believe that really makes us the best is that we're doing the smaller class sizes that really enables those individuals to really get hands on and not just get shown what to do, but actually do it themselves. We are conducting also a pass-fail criteria in this as well. So we do give people multiple opportunities to continue to get to do that skill set that's required, but we want them to get to the point where they understand that this is necessary. These safety precautions are needed to go out there and actually work on this piece of equipment. They're not just informative, they're required.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. And I have another question that's not a part of. And one of the things that I'm wondering is how is BTC working with workforce organizations to make sure that the training, the internal trainings that you guys are developing, as they are seeing they're successful and powerful, how are you making sure that you connect with workforce organizations to make sure that there's a wider audience receiving this particular training that you guys are developing?
It's a good question. I mean, generally, Shamika, our audience that we go out to, and we've been offering this training, like I said, for about 1.5 years at this point, almost 2 years now, has been to our customers, because our customers we're selling the equipment to need to be able to maintain that equipment. So from that point, there has been some outreach to some larger organizations or some workforce development at that point. Because of us directing it to there, we haven't made it widely known. Now, as we continue to go to this distance learning, we will be able to make that more available to the wider audience and some of these workforce development programs. So it's a great question, and something that as I think we get into the second half, late first half of this year, and even second half, we'll be able to introduce to some of those key stakeholders and workforce development programs.
Awesome. Amazing to hear that. And I hope we're part of that loop, because it's an amazing opportunity. And I think that this is a sector that we want to see grow. And as promised, my last question: in the next 5 to 10 years, what are some positions that BTC Power will be hiring for?
It's a great, yeah, thank you for asking that. So, I mean, we're looking at everything. I mean, BTC, like I said, is not just, we're not a European or an Asia organization that is coming over to the US, where we're just doing a subset of our business. BTC's roots and headquarters are in North America. So all facets of the business are things that we're looking at in terms of continuing to grow and continuing to hire in terms of position. That ranges from sales and admin to engineering, with our headquarters in Southern California. We're operations, manufacturing. We also have, like I said, an Irvine facility in this location. And then additionally, O&M or field support, which would be back office triage, dispatch, and field technicians like we've been talking about today. So I think every different skill that's needed in the EVSE space, from everything from the design all the way to the manufacturing and operations and maintenance, is what BTC is looking at hiring over the next 5 to 10 years and immediately.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time and sharing all of this wonderful information, but also just to express how impressed I am and how eager I am to connect with you, as well as other folks on this Zoom call as well. So again, thank you. And I'm going to pass it to Giovanni for some Q&A and to address some of the questions that we have in the chat.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shamika. And once again, thank you for your presentation, Stephen. We have a lot of great questions that have come into the chat as the presentation and discussion transpired. And so I would love to go ahead and start reading some questions here that came in. Sarah said, asked, does BTC Power have any manufacturing facilities or workforce in LA County? I know you mentioned headquartered in Santa Ana. You mentioned a facility in Irvine. Are there any located in LA County?
So manufacturing is actually in Irvine, which is Orange County, technically, but we also do have workforce out of LA County. We have technicians that are ranging throughout the United States, which include LA County as well, but no actual brick and mortar locations in LA County, as we're HQ'd in Orange County.
Got it. Another question here from Jackie Badejo. Additionally to Sarah's question, does BTC Power have your own training curriculums, facilities, or do you utilize Charger Help?
No, so Charger Help is actually one of our customers in the training aspect. So BTC, we have our own, we call it our Center of Excellence, which is our training room, where we have all of our pieces of equipment. We have multiple different equipment sets that we bring in for each one of the trainings. So as you are conducted in that tier 2 training, you would actually come into our class located in Santa Ana, California, and you would have that in-person training with our staff here. That's how that would happen. Charger Help is one of our customers. They do have some technicians trained on our pieces of equipment and growing just like many other third-party operators and maintenance programs.
Sounds good. I think that also gets to Dr. Yanez's first question there, with what you just covered. Next, Aaron asked, there is a workforce shortage. Where is BTC looking for new potential workforce with transferable skills by age group, by geographic area, by previous work experience? And also, Aaron added for justice impacted folks.
Yeah, so like I said, BTC is looking at all aspects of different employees that range from everything from operations to training, in all age groups, all geographies, and all different experience levels. Like I said, we do have a full training program. What I described to you today was our training for the technicians itself, but we do have internal training for workforce, quality skill sets as well. So as we bring new employees on board, we are giving them the skills that are needed for the work development and the training that are needed, not just expecting to employ with that.
I think Aaron may have a follow-up from that. I see your hand up, Aaron. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Ronnie. Yeah, just really quick follow-up. I guess my question more is like, where are y'all seeing that, like, the most easily integrated transferable skills? So like, obviously we're going to cast a wide net, and we're going to try and, you know, talk to as many people as possible, get as many people as possible excited about this training. But is there any group in particular that you're like, well, hey, you know what, like people who are in telemarketing because they're really great at communicating and listening and understanding like the needs of other people, like they're actually really great in this training. They do really well in this training, and they kind of like excel at this training. So I guess that's more what my question is.
Yeah, it's a great question. I'd love to bring in my director of field service into here, because he's the one that's really interacting with those assets. But in conversations with him, what's really been working for us is trying to find people with low voltage and IoT kind of experience. The electrical experience, we need to train them on, because it's hard to get all three of those skill sets together. But really having somebody that comes in that understands digital systems, understands how OSs operate, how to work with them, and then also understanding low voltage communication equipment and protocols is really something that's probably the hardest to teach. Luckily, you know, a lot of the people that are coming up and kind of coming into the workforce now are coming with those kind of skill sets as they have more experience with some low voltage kind of devices kind of nowadays, and computers and smartphones and all those different procedures now.
And then
Right on. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. And to piggyback off of Aaron's question, Hector brought up, you know, the point that, you know, he believes the workforce shortage is more of a livable wage shortage. So, you know, to Aaron's question, he wanted to know how BTC compensates at a base level and then based on training. Yeah, he would like to know what pay and benefits look like.
Yeah, and I'm not prepared to speak to the pay and benefits that BTC currently has for our own technicians. But what I can tell you is that our training continues to grow as well. So we go from a tier 1 to a tier 2. All of our own internal staff are tier 2 technicians. And then we even grow to a tier 3, which is a master technician as well, after you've had 3 to 5 years of experience. So what I'm providing to you is externally facing technician requirements, but the internal as well, as it continues to grow for the individuals that have that experience and those touch and the time in the field, really with not just with the training, but also with the experience in the field today.
Thank you for that. And then I also see here, Anthony asked, are on-the-job training opportunities available for entry-level technicians? Also, how are the charging stations powered?
So on-the-job training is available, and I think that there's a lot of those other programs that exist. Like I said, we don't just train our own individual technicians. We also go out to third parties as well. And I know that there's a lot of organizations that are doing this as well as ourselves. So to answer his second question, how they're powered is they're powered with AC charging, so our AC power. So the EV charging today gets power from either a grid, a microgrid asset, or so on and so forth, anything single phase to 3-phase, depending on the charger protocol. And then depending on the charger type, if it's level 2, it would do AC charging into the vehicle directly using a J1772 connector, or even in a now J3400, which is NACS connector. And then on DC charging, that charger itself inverts from AC to DC from about 150 volts up to 1,000 volts, and then puts that into the vehicle using one of 3 protocols, being CHAdeMO, CCS, or like I said, NACS using J3400 protocol.
Thank you. And at this point, I'll invite folks. Oh, I see Maritza. How can we find out about SoCal opportunities, job opportunities? Maritza is asking.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
I guess you did a quick search on Indeed and saw that there are currently only like 2 job opportunities available, which are in Northern California. She wanted to find out, how can we find out about job opportunities in Southern California?
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll have my HR department maybe send over a link to the different job opportunities that exist, and have those distributed to this group by the Grid Alternatives team.
And then I believe Dr. Yanez wanted to ask if, Stephen, are you the best contact to send interested participants to, or who could that contact be?
So on our website, you can go to the training. It's under one of the resources tabs on our website. And from there, you can actually do an inquiry directly to our training team from there to request training from any party in or outside of the organizations.
Awesome. Is there anyone else in this meeting that would like to go off mute and ask their question? Anything else that comes to mind while we have Stephen here before we wrap up our meeting here? These were all great questions, and Stephen, thank you so much for. Oh, Hector, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
Sorry, not to burn a big biscuit here, but I think mostly as workforce professionals and folks that are committed to seeing folks from disadvantaged backgrounds sort of get the benefit of job opportunities and training and livable wages around all of the public investment that is going into the broader kind of vehicle electrification space. I was really just kind of disappointed in your response, Stephen, about not being able to share what wages and benefits workers could expect in these types of jobs. Do you have estimates or anything else about that would help just sort of indicate what job quality looks like for this kind of work? don't mean to put you on the spot. It's a genuine question about like what kinds of jobs folks would be getting into in this kind of work.
Totally understand. And I'm not trying to sidestep the question, Hector. I totally understand the importance of having a livable wage. And I know BTC does as well. I am just not the one to answer that, as that team is not something that is under my purview directly. I'm responsible for doing the training and the certification program for both the internal and the external staff itself. So I just am not keenly aware of what those wages look like and what those different scales are, to be able to answer it kind of off cuff. So not trying to sidestep and not trying to diminish the importance of that.
Thank you for that, Stephen. Thank you for that follow-up, Hector. Anything else from anyone before we wrap up here? All right, so why don't we go ahead and move on to the next slide to close this out here. So just wanted to remind everyone that following this meeting, folks will receive a copy of the presentation, Stephen's presentation, a link to the recording of this meeting, and the meeting summary notes as well. And then our next WDAC meeting is set for April 2nd, same time. Everyone on here and other partners of ours that were unable to join us should have those calendar invites already sitting in their inbox. And we also do have our date for our next scheduled industry partner webinar series that is open to the public, which will be focused on Drayage 101. If you recall, the very first two we did, the first one was ZEV 101, the second one was Charging 101, and then we're going to move on with Drayage 101. So folks have an understanding of what we mean when we talk about drayage, as that's not necessarily common knowledge with the public. And so that's set for May 1st, same time of 10 a.m. So we'll be sending out some collateral that we can publish on LinkedIn, like a graphic, on social media, et cetera, et cetera. Would love your help in spreading that out so we could get folks joining that. So with that, next slide, just want to provide our contact. Again, for folks that if you'd like to contact us with any questions that you have, there is our contact there for Grid, EPRI, and next slide with our CalStart team. And again, I just want to thank you all for your time today, for joining us for our very first WDAC, eTruck WDAC quarterly meeting of the year. And Stephen, I greatly appreciate your time, your expertise, and really providing us wonderful insights into the training, the certification, how you all are viewing it. So how you're all thinking about it and putting it together. And the plans to really beef it up and make it available for folks outside of your customer base, right? Which is going to be really needed to help folks not currently in the industry get trainings they need to be able to enter into OEM spaces and be able to access all these other additional certifications as well. So you provided us with a lot to think about, a lot of crucial information that we're going to continue to dig into ourselves. So I cannot thank you enough, Stephen, for you and your team at BTC Power.
Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right, with that, thank you all so much. We're ending early, but we had a wonderful discussion, and thank you all for your questions. And we'll be in touch soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.